All right, who's ready? Who's ready? Who's ready to geek out to some weather here on this Tuesday evening? Hi, it's Eric here with weather for Weather Geeks. It's the Valley's most in-depth weather video, the past, present, and future weather affecting Northeast Ohio, Western PA, and sometimes we look at the region, the whole country, whatever is interesting in the weather world that I don't have time to talk about on TV, we cover in this video. Let's start today with a little review of what happened this morning. Of course, fog was the story this morning. I told you about this last night. And we had a thick blanket of fog out there this morning, really vivid on the high-resolution satellite from this morning, showing widespread fog throughout just about our entire viewing area. And our entire viewing area was under a dense fog advisory. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit advance. Let's go back. I want to show you the loop of the fog dissipating from the GO 16 satellite here. The fog started to really thin out by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it kind of thinned into and kind of evolved into a deck of stratus and stratocumulus clouds for a while, but then just became just popcorn cumulus clouds for the afternoon. As expected, it turned out to be a nice day today. Now I'll show you the time lapse from our weather camera in Niles showing the pea soup conditions for a few hours this morning, and then we get that kind of thinning and kind of a cloudy period, and then the sun came out, and while it was warm this afternoon, it was less humid than it has been. Where is autumn this evening? Well, it's across the Midwest. Look at these temperatures this evening in places such as Minneapolis and Des Moines and Topeka. It's only in the 40s out there with an upper-level low-pressure system overhead. East of that, it's still summertime. I mean, we got up to 77 this afternoon, and when I recorded Weather Geeks a little before 8 o'clock, it was still pretty close to 70 degrees locally. But we have some raindrops heading our way. This coming in two parts. The lead area of rain here, and then more associated with the upper low. It's back here. Rained out the NLDS game this evening in Chicago at Wrigley Field. They'll make that up tomorrow, I assume. As far as our weather here locally, I think we're going to start to get wet as we head past midnight tonight. As that area from the south and west pushes in, you're going to hear the pitter-patter of raindrops by 11, but probably closer to midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, light rain. And as you get up to go to work and school tomorrow morning, I think there's going to be some rain around, so pack the wet weather gear. Although I don't think it rains every hour of the day tomorrow. The overall highest chances of rain, the most consistent rain, probably in the morning hours. I suspect we'll get into a lull right around lunchtime, and then we might get kind of a ramp-up of activity again late in the afternoon, and I can't even rule out a late-day rumble of thunder tomorrow, but this is good news. We need the rain. We've picked up some needed rain lately, and our models here is a pretty good spread here between 1/4 of an inch and a little more than 3/4 of an inch on the European. Taking an average of this, I think a lot of us will end up with 1/3 to 1/2 an inch worth of rain. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Sure, we could use more, but we will take it. All right, back here in Ohio, of course, the all-important decisive Game 5 between the Indians and Yankees tomorrow evening at Progressive Field. I can't rule out some spots of drizzle or some sprinkles, kind of murky, kind of low clouds all around, but they're going to play through it. It won't be enough to cause a postponement or certainly not a cancellation. And temperatures remain mild for this time of the year. Now, the breeze may be noticeable tomorrow evening, and this will be a breeze that is mostly blowing in. So that could be important for offenses tomorrow evening up in Cleveland at 8:08. First pitch, late game. Judging by how long playoff baseball games take, that game won't be over till midnight at a minimum. Not a big fan of that. All right, so tomorrow, showers here and there, maybe a late-day rumble of thunder. Probably the best chance of a rumble of thunder is down in southeast Ohio, maybe the panhandle of West Virginia and closer to Pittsburgh as well. And then we're left with a pattern that is pretty uneventful, but pretty cloudy, I think, for the end of the week. This stationary front sets up, and boy, a murky couple of days in D.C., Baltimore, Philly, Rehoboth Beach, Salisbury, places like that. We're going to be out of the real murky weather here, but I think it is going to be fairly cloudy, and occasionally there might be a shower, especially Thursday. Friday's probably a little bit brighter, probably a smaller chance of a shower, but a chance nonetheless. Here comes the warmth for the weekend. I've taken Sunday's high up to 80 because it looks like the front's not going to come through now until Sunday night, allowing us to keep warming up, and 80 might still even be a little conservative. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit 81 or 82 on Sunday. The records both Saturday and Sunday are probably out of reach. They're in the mid-80s, so I don't think we're in record territory, but wow, what a weekend it's going to be. And while there could be a shower late Sunday, rain is much more likely after sunset Sunday evening. So if you have outdoor plans this weekend, you're doing just fine. Notice what happens after that, though. Yes, it is going to cool off. It's going to feel like autumn for a couple of days early next week. That's only going to last a couple of days, though, and I'm going to show you why momentarily here. Let me switch sources, and we'll talk about next week's weather. Again, here's our front Sunday night. Showers along it, maybe a residual shower Monday, kind of a much more autumnal day with clouds coming in off the lake and maybe a shower here and there. Pretty calm weather for midweek. Fast forwarding all the way to the end of next week. Boy, I think the warmth is going to come screaming back. This is the end of next week shown on the GFS here. We're getting into a, kind of a real strong southwesterly flow here. And by next weekend, the 21st and 22nd of October, we might see 80 again. It looks that warm as we go into next weekend. We might have 2 mid-October weekends in a row that are as much as 20 degrees warmer than average. All right, I'm getting a lot of questions about the winter forecast. I will have the winter forecast out both in written form, in video form, and a short version and a long version. All this is coming right around Halloween. I'm going to give you a couple of hints at kind of a behind-the-scenes view of where we start when we start piecing together seasonal forecasts. One thing that seems likely this year is that we're going to be in a weak La Nina situation out in the Pacific Ocean, meaning that the waters in the equatorial Pacific over towards South America are likely to be somewhat cooler than average. We were in a weak La Nina last year as well, last winter. I suspect this year's will be a little more pronounced. In other words, last year was almost a neutral situation in the Pacific. This year it's probably more solidly a weak La Nina, but a weak one. That's important. The stronger the phase of ENSO is here, whether it's El Nino or La Nina, the more predictable its effects on our weather on a seasonal scale are. So in other words, strong El Ninos, strong La Ninas, we've got a fairly decent idea as to what is likely to transpire in those winters. The weak ones, a little bit tougher, and we got to look at a lot of other stuff as well. But this is the basic premise that a weak La Nina will exist this winter in the Pacific. When you look at all those years, all these years that I just circled, and I'll put my telestrator again. When you look at all those years and you say, okay, there's a weak La Nina those winters, what happened as far as temperatures across the U.S.? Here's the composite. When you throw all those years in the hopper and look at them, take an average, definitely a strong signal out west. Cold winters in the western U.S. into the northern plains. Mild winters on average across the southeastern U.S. and then kind of a murky middle where it looks like it could go either way. And that includes in Ohio and Pennsylvania. That's when we take all those years. One thing I thought was interesting was that the winter of 1971 into 72 was not only a weak La Nina winter, but it also featured a very warm September and October in 1971. And that's the setup we have this year. We're going to have a record warm October, I think, or very close to a record warm October. Certainly it's probably going to be the top 5 or 10. And of course, September was very warm as well. So in 71, 72, you had a warm September, October, and then you had a weak La Nina winter. This is what happened. A warm winter in the southeast, a cold winter in the northern plains, and a pretty average winter, temperature-wise, across eastern Ohio and into western PA. Last year we had, we had a weak La Nina, and look what happened. Blood orange east of the Rockies. It was a remarkably warm winter, especially January and February. One thing that I think is very likely to happen this year is that the map will not look like this. I think we could have a warm winter compared to average, but as blood orange as this in as many places, I don't think so. I think you'll notice that this winter is not as warm as last winter, but there's a lot of signals there that we may have another warmer than average winter. That's just the temperatures. Haven't started talking about snow yet. I'll give you a few hints on that as we do another edition of Weather for Weather Geeks, either tomorrow or Thursday. So you can look forward to that. And again, official winter forecast out right around Halloween, maybe the last couple of days of October or the first few days of November. Thanks for watching this video tonight. I'll see you back here tomorrow.